Well, welcome. We're going to dive into, so thank you for coming to Planned, and I'm very excited to have you in our house today. So this presentation on active shooter has really flourished. It's taken off. I've done a few of these now, and several people have asked for more, which is how this was born. Active shooter, probably 10 years ago even, was not that big of it. We weren't thinking about it the way we are today. Unfortunately, today, it's not a good-to-know topic, it's a need-to-know topic. We're going to show you some of the things today, how far back this has been going on, what are some things to be cognizant of. After 9/11, the Department of Homeland Security was created. And it was created primarily because of terrorist attacks. Well, you're going to see today there's not much difference between an active shooter and an act of terrorism. So today I'm going to show you how that combines. Don't want to scare you today. We're going to show you some videos that are going to hopefully just open your eyes and be more aware of what's going on around you. Security is all about awareness. Security is about paying attention. You've heard for years now, see something, say something. Active shooter is all about that. Your life could depend on what you learn today and what you are aware of going on around you. So I hope I could bring, I'm going to give you some takeaways, but I hope I could bring some knowledge and impart some skills today that'll help you and maybe your communities going forward. So with that said, Laura, you have my little thingy?
Yes, I do.
All right, we're going to, I don't know which light this is. Shut that one. Okay, you see the screen a little better now? Awesome. I hear you clicking, but it's not switching.
It's not switching. Oh, there we go.
We knew we'd start the morning with a technical difficulty. How many in this room have gone through an active shooter training already? Or some type of active shooter seminar? Okay, so a few of you. So I want to be clear, and I use the word training and I should not have. The only official training for active shooter is done by the Department of Homeland Security. So no one else is allowed to create an active shooter training class. I'm not allowed to give you my opinion on active shooter. No one out there is allowed to do that. We have to take what they've created and we can have a conversation about that. So that's exactly what we're doing today, is going to have a conversation about what you feel, what I feel, interactive, I hope. We'll hope we do that today. And maybe have some fun with it. And definitely leave. The last one I did, people were like, wow, I wasn't even thinking about that. So what the Department of Homeland Security says with active shooter, it's run, hide, fight. You'll hear that a lot throughout the training or throughout the seminar today. Run, hide, fight. And we'll dive into each one of those today and what they all mean. Stop me when you have questions, or if you want to say something, or if you don't like me, I could take it.
This is just dozens and dozens of students that are fleeing for safety.
We have had reports of shots being fired inside the school.
We do have some fatalities.
3 hours of terror overnight, multiple shootouts, hostages, a packed nightclub under siege. Authorities say Omar Mateen arrived at Pulse Orlando, a gay nightclub and bar, armed with an AR-15 type assault rifle, a handgun, and an unknown number of rounds of ammunition.
And this is our Western edition. Good evening. It began as an ordinary school day, and it was almost over when gunfire erupted this afternoon. This deadly mass shooting happened in Parkland, Florida, about 20 miles northwest of Fort Lauderdale at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, attended by about 3,000 students.
At least 58 people now dead, more than 500 people wounded in a horrific shooting on the Las Vegas Strip. It's the deadliest mass shooting in modern United States history.
This morning, the Sandy Hook Elementary School was full of kids concerned about Christmas. And then at 9:40 a.m., shots rang out.
All units, the individual that I have on the phone is continuing to hear what he believes to be done.
It used to, I think active shooter, primarily a lot of attention happened in the schools, right? So that was pretty obvious with all the horrible things that we saw in schools. Then we started seeing it in theaters. Now we're seeing it in places of worship, in the workplace. There really is no one who's immune from this problem anymore. And so it's definitely, there's a lot of attention on it. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do to prevent it, but really it's about everyone just bringing attention, focusing on it. We could blame the active shooter problem on a million things, and I'm not going political. You could blame it on guns, you could blame it on people, you could blame it on this, you could blame it on that. What we're hoping to do today is just bring attention that this is a thing. and we should pay attention, whether you're in a residential community, a commercial community, bringing awareness to your group, creating a plan. And I've spoken to a few of you this morning already about having a plan for when this happens. I talk to a lot of folks, you have a fire drill, you have plans for several other things, but do you have a plan for active shooter? Are you prepared? Is there a preparedness method for active shooter? And most of the people I talk to, no, there's not. So it's as important today as any of the other things that you plan for, and I think it's something you should look into. What is an active shooter? An individual engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. Sounds like a terrorist to me. No different, right? Same thing they're trying to do. Cause mass casualties and get as much recognition as they can for doing it. That's what an active shooter. There often is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. Just to want notoriety. Guy in Vegas, right? Bust out a window. There's the investigation completed a couple weeks ago. There was no reason for what he did, other than he just wanted notoriety. Wasn't after somebody in the crowd, had money, had everything. He just wanted notoriety. Wanted to go down in a blaze of glory. Most shootings are not classified as active shooter incidents. They're either classified as domestic violence, drug crimes, gang activity. They don't know how to categorize active shooter because there's not a set pattern. We can't say, okay, this person's going to grow up and become an active shooter. There's no set pattern. So they either categorize it as one of these because they don't have a real reason for why they're doing it. Terrorism is as close as I can get to it because they want mass casualties. They want to scare people. Look how long this has been going on. We think it's new. In 1966, we had the Texas Tower. In 84, 99, the Virginia Tech, I remember that one personally. The theater, I mean, this goes on and on. There's only a few, but the list, if we were to create a list of every active shooter incident we had, we would go around this room 2 times. That's how horrific this has become. That's how significant this has been. Oops, did you? Oh, okay, we're going to another video.
Active shooter events can occur anywhere at any time, and frequently involve individuals attempting to kill others indiscriminately. These events are unpredictable and can evolve quickly. For this reason, whenever you enter a building as an employee, guest, or customer, you must be prepared and know what it is you will do if faced with the worst case scenario, even if it's just another day at the office.
Last night, every time I closed my eyes, all I could see were slide decks.
Don't remind me. Sorry I'm late. Did I miss anything?
Hey, you got a minute to catch me up on that thing?
Yeah, come on in. Is Amelia here too?
Let me grab her, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
When startled by a gunshot, it's a natural human reaction to freeze. Unfortunately, this response leaves you vulnerable to what might come next. If you see someone frozen in place in this type of situation, make your best attempt to assist them.
I think it's critical that we find a way to make sure this doesn't happen again. We've wasted way too much time.
That's gunfire.
Are you sure that was a gunshot?
That's gunfire.
Was that really a gunshot? Call the police.
If you can't easily evacuate, the best option is to hide. Lock the door, stay close to the ground, and try to find cover from any stray gunfire that may penetrate the walls. If you're able, call 911.
What was that?
Sounded like a gunshot. What should we do?
Come on, let's get out of here.
When possible, the best alternative in an active shooter event is to run. If your path is clear and you can safely reach an exit, evacuate as soon as possible. Of course, some may not have such easy access to a safe exit. In these situations, you must decide for yourself whether it is best to evacuate or to hide. As with any of these options, if you do choose to run, commit to this action. And remember, police will be arriving to assist you and to evacuate the wounded, so be sure to keep your hands up and empty as you clear the building. Otherwise, put simply, don't stop running. Once clear of danger, make contact with 911 to assist their response by providing them information about the shooter, the weapons they're carrying, and the amount of wounded that may still need medical assistance. If you have been unable to evacuate and are trapped in the facility during an active shooter situation, remember, making the decision to hide does not prevent you from putting up a fight later. If you are confronted by the active shooter, you have to assume that your actions are all that stand between yourself, your colleagues, and grave harm. Fight for your life. Search around you for sharp or heavy objects that you may use to disable the attacker. Collaborate with those around you to ensure you aren't acting alone. You're taking action for your survival, so do not hold back, and do not stop fighting until you know beyond certainty that you are safe. Committing to run, to hide, or to fight will keep you safer than if you freeze during a crisis. Remember to prioritize your safety. If you come across those who are wounded and may need assistance, assist them if you can, but do not let them inhibit your escape. As an individual, the most important thing you can do to keep yourself safe, whether it is to run, hide, or to fight, is to commit to your decision and to continuously reevaluate the situation. If you own a business or operate a large public facility, you may be able to better enable individual response to such events by identifying emergency escape routes and exits. Use this information to design evacuation plans that can be used by employees and guests to your facility. Reach out to law enforcement to see if they'll come to your facility and assist you in drafting your response plan or guide you to training that may assist employees in their survival. Remember, this training may be the difference between life or death. See about technology you may be able to incorporate to make your facility safer, which may include audio or visual cues for those with access and functional needs. Plan for and train your employees to assist those who may not be able to run, hide, or fight. Equip them with a first aid or a go kit, an emergency ladder in case you're not on the first story, and explore the possibility of mass notification technologies, which may enable you to alert those in the area of any present dangers.
So it wasn't meant to scare you, but hopefully just bring some attention to what we're talking about today. Easier said than done on a lot of that, right? I think if a lot of you are seeing that video for the first time, and I asked this in my last class, how many of you would know what a gunshot sounds like? Yeah, okay. More than the last class. Some of the folks I had in the last class never fired a weapon before, never heard a gunshot. That was certainly a pistol, which is not primarily what's used during an active shooter situation. So even if you have heard a pistol fire, some of you have never heard a semi-automatic weapon, unless you're in the military or another background. So you don't even know what's happening is my point. A lot of times people will freeze, like you see in that video, until you determine what it is that's actually happening. So having a plan. Something else I got out of that video that we just saw is, they talked about evacuation and emergency. Well, I'm sure Parkland's fresh in our mind in Florida. And if you remember what this kook did is he pulled a fire alarm to draw people out. Well, what do you have in place is to tell people, don't run out the building for every fire alarm you hear? Or are people even paying attention to fire alarms anymore? Where are they going when there's a fire alarm? Are they following just the audible, or is there a visual, which you saw in the video, that goes along with the fire alarm to tell people this is a real fire alarm, or be careful? So there's a lot of technology out there now. Some places will have those visual that there is an incident, so it's not audible, to alert people in the building about what's happening, potential active shooter situation, someone has breached the premises, different colors that don't necessarily are an audible, but will alert people who've been trained and understand what those signals mean. Having a signal that the shooter doesn't know of is the key. So the shooter's not going to know why your yellow lights are flashing in your hallways. The shooter's not going to know why this is happening. He certainly is going to know what happens when he pulls a fire alarm. More than likely, your people are going to evacuate and walk right into his bullets, which is what he's aiming to do, what he's after. Run, hide, fight. Right now, the Department of Homeland Security is evaluating one of those three things, and that is hide. A lot of people who potentially could have run did not, because they barricaded themselves. How safe do you think we'd be if we barricaded ourselves in this room right now? Not too safe. We're surrounded by glass. I don't care if we push everything in front of that door, not smart. So no matter what happened in this building right now, run would be our option. And if someone was between us and run, it'd be fight. I'm going to get into them individually, but how many of us are not able to do any of those things? So you saw a woman in a wheelchair in this video. What do we do with that person? How do we handle that? Who's going to be in charge of that person if there was an incident? These are all things to talk about in your communities. What's going to happen? Some people are assembling a team like a neighborhood watch that will be in charge of the program. Not necessarily, not going to go room to room and save people's lives, but they'll have the most knowledge around active shooter. They'll go to a lot more trainings. They'll be equipped. Some of the police departments are given radios to Neighborhood Watch, so you have direct contact, so you don't have to dial 911. Who knows if you're going to be able to use your phone. Some have emergency panic buttons on their properties to the police station, so that they don't have to do an audio or a visual alert to the local authorities. Every minute during an active shooter situation counts. Every second during an active shooter situation counts. There is another video I want us to do at the end, but so run, if possible. This is the one that I aim at all the time. When people talk about, whoa, what do we do during a fire emergency? What floors have to evacuate? I'm like, if you can hear me, get out. That's my rule of thumb. I'd rather talk about it later that you weren't able to do 5 more emails, but you're safe. I'd rather talk about it later that you weren't able to get some work done, but you're outside safe. 9/11, what started all this. Tower 2, right? So horrible day, and most of us were around for this miserable day. They were telling people in Tower 2 to go back to work because they thought it was just an emergency in Tower 1. Which I personally think is horrible. We could have maybe saved, even one life, it would have made a difference if we just said this. We never saw this before, right? I've never in my life saw a plane in the side of a building before. So we didn't know how to react. A lot of folks didn't know how to react. So, oh, it's only there, you're good. So work became more important than life. And when that happens, there's more casualties, there's more death. So security is inconvenient. Security is a pain in the butt. After 9/11, we learned how to go through airport security, and we remember how miserable that was, right? When that first started, oh, now we got to take off our belts, our shoes, it was horrible, we were going to die. Now, it's like a part of life, right? So we brought awareness to it, we made it no big deal now, so now we just do it. There was a gated community in somewhere in South Jersey where we do security. They weren't checking IDs of people coming through the community. And I'm like, how do you know that person's who they say they are if you don't check ID? Oh, our residents will hate us if we do it. It was horrible. We started doing it, and yep, they were screaming at us the first week. Now, a year later, I see they're holding their ID out the window as they're driving up. So a lot of this security has to be taught, and it has to be practiced. And if you don't do it, yeah, it's inconvenient. But it's better than dying. It's better than the alternative if we don't practice security. So running, getting away, escaping, leaving your work behind, keep your hands visible. I could tell you from a law enforcement perspective, imagine they're the guys going into this. So as you're coming out, all they know is someone's got a gun, and they don't know who it is, and there's no definite description of the person, so everyone to them is suspect. So if you come out looking suspicious, if you don't come out obeying orders, you can get yourself in trouble as you're running out of the building. So you want to make sure that those law enforcement people can see your hands, because that's what they're looking for. You want to make sure that you're following orders that they're giving. They're going to tell you where they want you to go, and someone that strays off the path, you may get hurt. Another thing with Parkland, he ran out with the crowd, right? He took off down the street. They caught him a couple blocks away. But he did everything we're talking about here. He pulled a fire alarm, and he mingled in with the crowd to try to get away. So he was a kid like they were. How was law enforcement going to decide who was the bad kid, who was the good kid? Keep that in mind if you do have to evacuate. And then, of course, try to remember what you see. Now, some of these situations are horrible, right? You're going to see perhaps people you love injured around you. So you want to make sure that you're able to, with your eyes, make sure you find out what's going on, but don't stop and take notes. You want to get out of the building and just report to the law enforcement officers everything you saw when you ran. Any questions on what you're seeing right here? What would be a reason you wouldn't run? Why would you stay? Unless you're just looking for a fight with a guy with a gun. Yes, ma'am.
I work with my husband, so I don't think I would run if I didn't see him.
Okay, so you mean you want to make sure he's safe?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you being injured help your husband?
It wouldn't. I just don't think I could leave unless I saw him leaving with me.
I like that. It's February. It's Love Month. I'm all about that.
Well,
so, yeah, he's in the car. I could see that. So loved ones for sure play a part in our decisions. But like in the airplane, when they say when the oxygen mask falls, you know, put it on yourself first before your loved one. Same applies here. A dead loved one isn't going to help someone who needs your help. So you absolutely, in all security situations, not just active shooter, which is extreme, but you're not going to help anyone getting hurt in a fire. You're not going to help anybody getting hurt in another situation. So you do have to take care and make sure that you're safe before you can help others. I love that. I'm all about love. Valentino was Italian, I think. Yes, sir.
I mean, I think, I'm not in these roles, but I think there's an issue with if you're a role of a property manager or a school principal or a school teacher where you're like, I feel I have a leadership duty to make sure this dude doesn't get through me and again,
without a doubt,
get to the kids or get to the residents. You know, I think a lot of managers would say, I can't just run down the stairwell.
Yeah.
And
yeah, no.
I hope everyone's okay. You know?
There's accountability. There's accountability. But would you be doing those kids or those people justice if you ran into the problem? So if you were outside and now you ran in front of the gun and now you're dead. So the decision that has to be made, you know, everyone wants to do the right thing. But by doing the right thing, are you making it worse? That's what you have to think of. Hopefully, I hope the teachers of my children who are in school today would try to get my kids to safety or out of harm's way. But they're certainly not going to be able to do that if they're putting themselves in harm's way. So that's the message, not don't help people, not run for your life. It's if it's obvious that you can get away, like the one gentleman was outside. If he came into the building, that would not make sense. Law enforcement, to your point, has to go into the building. That's their job. That's their role. That's what they're trained for. That's what they do while you're all at your desks and we're all doing our things. They're training every day for that situation. So let them do that. The folks who don't know what they're doing, unless the teacher has the skills or unless you have the skills, how do you know what's right? So primarily, get to safety. Get anyone you can with you to safety, of course. Don't leave anybody behind. But think about running first and getting away from the danger. Great questions, and I love the comments too. Anything else about running? Yes, sir.
If you look out the door of your office, let's say, and you only have one way to go, and you know that the person is down that way, then you hide, right?
If there's no way to get out, right. So then, hide, yes, but it's better be good, so I don't know, rounds can penetrate through walls depending on what he's carrying, depending on how much time that active shooter has, depending on how long it takes law enforcement to get there and then how fast they can penetrate and get to this person. So if they have a lot of time in a small space like this, I mean, imagine right here. I mean, that's what I like to tell. Imagine this room right now. I mean, there's a lot of people right here. You know, we'd have to fight. We'd have to get to fight.
Time for conceal and carry in New Jersey.
What's that?
Time for conceal and carry.
Conceal and carry? Well, could be. It could be. You know, there's arguments about, and like I said, I'm not going political, but there's arguments about whether the weapons are good or bad. But knowledge is power. There's no doubt about that. There's nobody that would disagree, whether you like guns or not, that being knowledgeable is better than not being knowledgeable. So that's what we're promoting today, knowledge. You'll in that other video, I hope we can get up at the end, and maybe Nick, you can help us. It's on their website. You'll see that you don't need to have necessarily a gun to be able to defend yourself in a situation like that. You got to look around and make anything a weapon. You know, in my day it was MacGyver. He would take a toothbrush and he'd kill people with it. But any tool that you can find that you could make a weapon becomes a weapon. We'll get into fight in a little bit. Run. Next one, please. Hide. My least favorite, as you could tell. And this is, but if you are going to hide, you got to be, you know, hiding behind. This is not hiding, right? You can see me. You got to make sure that you are truly hidden. Yeah. You have to be quiet. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. This isn't hiding either. You have to be completely out of sight. Most of the time, active shooters, from what we've studied on active shooters, they're trying to get through a building quickly. They're trying to create as much casualty as possible. Most of them will not try to break down a door. Most of them aren't interested in getting in every door of a building. They want easy stuff. So they're looking for the low-hanging fruit, the people who are coming out, the people who are in hallways or corridors. So in some cases, yeah, being hidden will be enough, and being out of the way. They're creating some amazing stuff. There's tape that becomes bulletproof now. They have, much like a film. It's a film that goes over windows that you can't penetrate, that rounds can't penetrate through, even the big ones. So there's some great technology coming out. The schools are buying door stops, and now schools, what I love about schools is, you know, they have a camera. You got to get buzzed in if you're going to pick up your kid. You've been through this, I've been through it. It takes you 10 hours to get through, which I think is great. Those inconveniences are things you should be thinking about at your property. So if you don't have an individual sitting at your front door, how hard is it to get in? And if that person gets in and starts shooting up the place, irate resident, irate tenant, irate this. That happens every day. These are terrorists. They don't care about their lives. They don't care. They just want it to be newsworthy, and they want to leave a lasting impression on your property and you and your community, in churches, in synagogues. They're not doing this because they have a beef with an individual. They're doing this for notoriety. Hiding. Make sure you're out of sight. Make sure you stay quiet. But while you're hiding, prepare for the next thing. Please. Prepare. Oh, there's more on hiding. Prepare to fight. Last class, I asked how many people have ever been in a fight in their lives, and thankfully there was a very small amount, because it's not natural. Fighting is not natural. Fighting is not a thing you grow up doing or wanting to do or think about doing. It's something that most people have to be trained to do. Harming another individual is not a natural thing. One of the biggest things that you learn in the military is how unnatural that is, and that's why they spend so much time in a boot camp teaching you that it's okay. Because most of your life you were taught it's not okay. So they have to break the mold. And that's why we go through this elaborate training about shooting and killing and maiming and hurting, and we over and over and over again, because it's not natural. Nor should it be. Nor should it be natural. So what you have to realize, and when your life is on the line, can you do it? Well, if you don't, they're going to do it to you. So there's a good starting point. But then what could we do to prepare for that? Well, what are some of the things out there that we could do to make it a little more natural when we have to do it? And some of those things that are out there, so there's defensive training courses, which I think are very helpful. More and more they're popping up around. They'll come to you now. I think it's a great thing to do. It'll get you at least Fighting needs to become a rhythm. Fighting needs to become natural, and it could take some of the shock away when someone's attacking you. Even if it's not an active shooter situation, if you've never had to defend yourself and you suddenly have to, most people will freeze and they'll get hurt. So some of the training courses that you could take, whether it's martial arts, which I know Lori, who's with me today, happens to be a black belt in Taekwondo, so don't mess with her. We share the same rank in Taekwondo. I think for any training that you can get out there will be helpful, even if it's not that extreme, but something that you just will prepare you for it. Acting as aggressively as possible, yeah, you want to be a lunatic at this point, right? Someone's trying to kill you. So you have to give it everything you have. Fire extinguisher, different things that you can maim, hurt people, anything you can grab, anything, anywhere becomes a weapon in this situation. You're fighting for your life. You're fighting for your life. Throwing items, improvising, yelling. Yeah, sometimes that chaos. Committing to your actions. Don't pretend you're going to hit them. Hit them. Don't threaten you're going to hit them. Don't ask them to go outside like they used to do. No, you have to hit. You have to aggressively strike to maim. And you'd be surprised how little pressure it takes. Anyone here strong enough to hurt somebody? Anybody, I promise you that. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to put somebody on the ground. So, all things to consider. I don't love this, but you have to know this. Is there another page behind this? Yeah. Yeah, so after this has happened, now the situation's over. You know, you either maimed this person or you ran from them or you're still hiding from them. But now the cops are coming in. You know, remain calm. Allow for follow officers' instructions as we talked about. Don't run that way when they're saying going that way. Put down any items in your hands. Very important. This is not the time to go collect your iPad and, you know, your iPhone and all the things you need to get. Just get out of there. Immediately raise your hands. Spread your fingers. Keep hands visible at all times. Avoid making quick movements towards officers. I hope this is common sense. I do, because these guys they're coming in with the guns, and they're looking for the bad guys. Avoid pointing, screaming, and yelling. Oh my God, he's over there. No, he's over there. I think I saw him over there. Do not stop to ask officers for help. During a direction evacuation, I've seen this, even in fire drills, our security staff in some of these high-rise buildings. There's a fire going on. Everyone is chaotic. And people, does this mean we're not going to have Mahjong tonight? What time does that start? Or they want to know, could you please just get out? That would be very helpful. Now's not the time to ask questions, and it's time to get out. Please?
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
So everyone's ready to do this. So didn't want to scare anybody today, but I hope you leave here with a little nugget of knowledge that you'll bring back to your community, or even more, I hope you take this to the next level, because this was just a conversation today. I hope you do more around training, more around building a plan for your communities, more around preparing for this, and do whatever you can, because active shooters for real. So I appreciate your time this morning. I've taken more than enough of your time today. We got to get to Mitch. But thank you. Stick around. Good stuff is coming, and we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you. Thank you.